Tuesday Night Touchdown Podcast with your hosts, Reese Downing and Jacob Workman. What's going on, guys? It is TNT Tuesday Night Touchdown Podcast, NFL Edition Wild Card Weekend 2024. Welcome to the playoffs, guys. With me, as always, is the fine citizen over there, Mr. Workman. Jake, what's going on, man?
What's up, Captain Reese? The season is over. We've made it to the playoffs, and the team I root for once in, well, actually, they've made it a few times in my life, but it's nice that the Lions are finally in the playoffs, and I have something to actually root for this year.
Yeah, for sure. I'm excited for you. Like we talked about it quite a bit. I've gone to quite a few Lions games with you over the years, so it's exciting to go. I think when we first talked about this, and I think we're going to play a clip here a little bit later, we talked about if this game happened, we were going to buy tickets, and I think we fell a little short of that. But
well, I don't know if you've seen, but the tickets for this game are also the most expensive wild card playoff game in NFL history. So it's
seriously,
yeah, it's crazy how much they're going for.
That's nuts. Well, I mean, it stands to reason, but we'll talk about that here in a little bit. So we've got a special episode. Before we kick things off there, let's talk about last week's results. I ended up going 11-5 in my final week. Jake went 9-7. So we both finished above 500. We both hit our lock with Detroit. Final lock records for the year. Jake went 12-6 and I went 15-3. We will not pick locks throughout the playoffs. So that solidifies our locks for the first year. Pretty damn good for year one, especially picking these on Tuesday. Total records for the year. I ended up just over 500 at 137, 130-5. Jake just missed it at 131, 136-5, but still fantastic records for the first year playing against the spread here on Tuesday. Any final thoughts as we wrap up the regular season?
I mean, one thing we did say from the beginning was just bet the locks. 27-9 on the locks is pretty solid. That would have made you some decent money there.
Yeah. So speaking of making some decent money, we've got some guys that listen to our show quite a bit. We've had them on a time or two before, and we are going to pull them in for this show to talk about the playoffs. So let's start pulling guys in here. Let's bring in the tried and true group here. We've got the Carter returning as always with the playoffs. we brought his stepdad Scott, who's actually my stepdad, back. And we also have Big Taxes here, my buddy and big Cowboys fan. So thank you guys for joining. What do you guys have any thoughts you'd like to share on the regular season as we wrap things up? Anything that you guys saw surprising in Week 18?
Dynamite drop in money.
Everybody wants.
Thanks, guys. All right. Let's.
I think my Colts really had a shot at winning the AFC South. I never thought that was going to be a possibility.
It was a great game too.
Yeah,
Richardson getting hurt. Steichen drew up a perfect play. I know a lot of people kind of bashed him for going to the backup running back there, but I mean, he was wide open. Gardner just threw a little bit behind him.
Yeah, it wasn't a very good throw.
He might not have scored, but he would have been probably inside the 5 because Pittman had a great block in front of him. And little did we know Jacksonville was going to lose the next day, and we could have won the South. But
what a collapse!
Always next year.
Yeah, crazy collapse. Well, let's talk about that. That's the first topic of conversation I've got here. Is what's been your favorite or most surprising story of the NFL season? Taxis, I'll throw it to you first.
For me, the most surprising, kind of like what happened with the Cowboys, like. After last season, Dak Prescott with all the interceptions, leading the league in interceptions, missing as many games as he did. The narrative was out there that he's not a franchise quarterback. He can't get it done. He comes back, throws the most touchdown passes for the season. The Cowboys are ranked 5th in total yards per game, 3rd in passing yards per game. They're the top scoring offense at 29.9 points per game, and they're only second behind the Bills in third down offense. Couple that with a new offensive coordinator, a new play caller, and you just don't know what's going to happen. And through the first, handful of weeks of the season up until that, or through the 49ers game in the bye week, it didn't look good. But after that bye week and CeeDee Lamb going in and talking to McCarthy, non-diva, he said, he didn't go in like a diva, but he said, get me more involved. And that's when the offense really took off. McCarthy, yeah, he's got his little things with time management, clock management. But overall, like, it's surprising to me, even as a Cowboy fan. I knew the talent was there, but it just seemed in years past with Kellen Moore, it got stale by the end of the season. He come out, use everything that's in his bag. The first 12, 13 weeks of the season, by the time playoffs rolls around, there was nothing left. We looked like a shell of the offense that ran. And that was my favorite. But the most surprising to me, I think, is the amount of starting quarterbacks with season-ending injuries. There's 7 starting quarterbacks. Rodgers in the first week of the season. Burrow, Cousins, Anthony Richardson, Herbert, Daniel Jones, and Watson. Well, Watson may be a blessing that he got hurt for the season. But that's 22% of the starting quarterbacks that got hurt for this season. I don't think there's many in the past as many high-profile quarterbacks that got hurt. But those are my favorite thing as the Cowboys, and surprising how many quarterbacks actually got injured this season for long term.
Yeah, and from the Cowboys standpoint, you don't even talk about the fact that Tony Pollard has not had a great year, and besides Cooks having a good game every now and then, it's been CeeDee Lamb and Jake Ferguson. So for the Cowboys to have that level of offense with the level of production they've had outside of those two guys has been pretty crazy. Carter, what about you? What's been your favorite and most surprising story of the NFL season?
Texas kind of stole my storyline for the season, was the year of the quarterback, but mainly the backup quarterbacks coming in. Like you said, 7 of them getting knocked out for the year. You got anywhere from a guy like Flacco who comes off the couch and gets his team into the playoffs. I mean, I know that defense kind of carried him a lot, but that offense was really cooking towards the end. Gardner Minshew kind of leading the Colts to right there to the doorstep of the playoffs. Guys like Tommy DeVito stepping up, had a moment there.
Yes, Tommy Cutlets.
Yeah, Easton Stick came in for Herbert. I don't think he did worth a damn, but it was just kind of crazy how many primetime quarterbacks. I mean, it started right from the beginning with Rodgers getting hurt right off the bat. So
yeah, first drive of the season.
Yep.
After Hard Knocks and everything, that looked like a big promising, like, got me all hyped up to actually watch some Jet games this year, and it's like back to Zach Wilson.
Yep.
So sad.
Scott, what about you?
I think parity is the NFL's love of parity. That's kind of ruled the season. You look at what happened to the Eagles. They've taken a nosedive at the end of the season. They've come back there. KC, what happened to them? And then look at the bottom dwellers who have made that jump. Houston, Indianapolis, LA Rams have come back. Lions have made a move. Some of those teams that have been at the bottom of the league for a while, are either playoff or playoff contention the last week. That's been a huge turnaround for a lot of these teams. That's why the NFL fans keep having that hope, that dream at the beginning of the season more than I think any other major sport in the U.S.
Yeah, be prepared for the Browns-Lions Super Bowl for your ultimate parody.
It could be there.
Yeah.
It'd be hard to root against either one of those teams. The Lions have had some really hot games, and they've also, laid an egg on a couple times going out where you thought that, they had to have it. So, it's been there this entire season.
100%. Workman, what about you, man? What's your most surprising story?
I just made a little list. I've just got a few favorites and a couple surprises. My favorite, obviously, is the Lions winning 12 and winning the NFC North. Another favorite of mine was the Rams winning 10 and making the playoffs. My surprise is the Chiefs' offensive struggles. That's a big deal. And I mean, the Chiefs could be out next week. Like, this weekend could be the end of the Chiefs season. That's a crazy thought. Texans winning 10 games and winning the AFC South, I think, is a huge surprise. And just from a statistical standpoint, something that surprised me a lot is Jared Goff finished second in the NFL in passing yards and fourth in the NFL in touchdown passes. That's pretty crazy. Yeah. Goff's not exactly a gunslinger back there.
No, not at all. Yeah, I've got pretty much a lot of the stuff that you guys have listed here. The Jags meltdown, Chiefs offensive struggles, obviously. The Eagles is a huge surprise to me. I think it's a surprise to everybody how they finished the season, especially considering, they're dealing with some injuries, but not to the level that some of these other teams are. And I don't know what's happened in Philadelphia right now, but it's not good. Buffalo's come back. They ended up winning a ton of games on the back half of the year when we had them counted out midway through the season. CJ Stroud showing, he is by far the best quarterback to come out of that draft class so far. I know we're only 1 year in, but to take your team to the playoffs as a rookie when a lot of people thought that Houston only maybe win in a handful of games. Flacco's comeback that we talked about. Miami's fall out of the AFC East. Just a few weeks ago, we thought they had that in the bag, and they quickly fell out of that. Another one that was kind of surprising to me was the Broncos' handling of Russell Wilson. It seems like when that stuff started happening, like every day we came into more news that they were just treating him even worse than what we heard about the day before. Especially considering how he's been playing this season with a new coach, new offensive system and everything. I thought Russell Wilson was serviceable, and it looked like he could be, at least a couple year serviceable for the Broncos, and how the front office has handled that situation has been pretty crazy.
Yeah, I wouldn't say that any of that is Russell Wilson's fault either. I mean, he played fine. That's a lot of issues in the organization going on there. Yeah,
and I don't like we talked about this after the that Dolphins game. Like, how do you fix this? Like, because that franchise has just tanked since Peyton left. And now they're being run like Walmart, which makes sense because that's who owns it. So I'm surprised. I don't know how that's all going to shake out here over the course of the next couple of years, but hopefully Russ can find a place to land. He'd definitely be a serviceable backup, but I don't think he's going to want to play anywhere where he's going to be a backup. So we'll see what happens for him. Let's jump into Black Monday. We had a couple coaches that ended up losing their jobs. Arthur Smith with the Atlanta Falcons has been fired. Ron Rivera with the Washington Commanders has been fired. We already had a couple other guys that were gone with Josh McDaniels and a couple of those other coaches, Brandon Staley. We did hear that Pete Carroll is planning on returning in 2024. Dennis Allen with the Saints is also going to be returning in 2024. Wink Martindale did come out and resign as the Giants defensive coordinator, so they will be looking for a new DC there. As of right now, and we haven't heard, I don't think it's official at this moment, but all things considered, it sounds like Bill Belichick will be moving on from the Patriots. So right now, we've got the Raiders, the Falcons, the Commanders, the Patriots, and the Panthers all potentially looking for new head coaches, and that's just right now.
The Titans as well.
Okay, so the Titans as well. So that's another one that I had missed here. So the Titans are included in that. So we've got quite a few teams that are looking for head coach. Who do we think? There's a lot of really good DCs and OCs out there. Lions, Aaron Glenn and Ben Johnson, both of those guys. Todd Monken and the Ravens. Mike McDonald, the Ravens DC. A couple other names I have here. Jim Schwartz, the Browns DC. Dan Quinn's obviously got his name thrown out there, and a couple other guys. The one that seems to be what should be a shoe-in to me would be Antonio Daniels staying with the Raiders and Eric Bieniemy getting the job with the Commanders since he's already on staff, but we don't know if that's going to happen. Do you guys have any guys that aren't current head coaches that you see stepping into any of these roles? Are there any one position that you think would be the best out of all of these teams? You've got the Raiders, Falcons, Commanders, Patriots, Panthers, Titans, and Chargers all right now that are looking for head coaching. Carter, how about you?
I think Belichick might be out of New England. If that's the case, Vrabel seems like a shoe-in to go to New England. Washington with the Bieniemy thing seems interesting, but that seems like a complete overhaul. I could see them they're going to do a national search. And the name out there that you didn't mention that I think is going to go to back to the NFL is
Harbaugh,
championship coach. Yeah, Harbaugh. And I mean, out of the teams, I would say he might go to the Chargers. They actually have a quarterback there. He's a West Coast. He was out in San Francisco, so maybe he'll go back out there. But those are just my thoughts on those.
I think just one name that hasn't been thrown out. My guess of kind of like a sleeper name is Bobby Slowick, offensive coordinator for the Texans. He's in that big tree from that Jesus Redskins staff that everyone's got a job and everyone's been successful. So I'm pretty sure he'll probably get a job this year also. That could probably be, I don't know. That's going to be one of those teams that, I don't know. You almost want to say the Panthers. I know the Panthers are making another run at Ben Johnson, but Ben Johnson turned him down last year. So unless they're just throwing the world at him, which Tepper has the world, so he can, but you also have seen Tepper's actions, and I was like, why would you want to go be the coach for Tepper?
Yeah, that's like literally a get rich quick scheme. Like that should be the most coveted job as a head coach for anybody in the league. Yes, they're the worst team in the league. Yes, they don't have a first round pick. They've tied their franchise to a crushable quarterback. The owner's a nut job, but he's going to pay somebody 60, 70, $80 million for 6 years. And if you don't win 12 games in the first 5 weeks, he's probably going to fire you, and then he's going to owe you $80 million over the course of the next 6 years. It's the biggest get-rich-quick scheme in America right now.
The best career in America is a fired head coach.
Yeah.
That's the best job in the world.
Just talk to Jimbo Fisher.
Yeah, no kidding.
Oh, right? Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Tax and Scott, either one of you guys have any OCs, DCs, or any other coaches that you think might make a move into head coaching spot?
I do believe
the Titans are doing. They're filing Mike Raybrick without holding on to him. Find out what New England's done. Would New England have traded some draft picks to bring him over as head coach? Why fire him today? That's a head scratcher if they actually thought that Belichick was gone. I would have held on to him until they'd actually decide one way or another. There's no rush to fire him. So that's kind of my head scratcher of the coaching season so far.
Tennessee's not that attractive of a job either. I mean, every other team in the division has shown improvement except them now. And they actually traded their best player away last year. And Vrabel said he was against that. It wasn't even Vrabel's thing. So, yeah, the Titans is, and they're not really a team that's going to throw a bunch of money out either. I mean, they're building a new stadium, which is going to be nice, but that's going to be 4 years from now. So that might be like a Staley or an Artie Smith or something like that, where they end up maybe as a second term job. But yeah, I don't know. I feel like that's going to be the hardest one to fill.
I think Tepper's going to have to pay somebody 15, 16 million for 4 or 5 years to get somebody to come. Your owners tossing drinks at fans. The NFL only fines them $300,000. What's the $300,000 to a billionaire?
Well, I think the rumor was that Ben Johnson could acquire 17 to 18 million a year, which is insane. But they're going to have to throw something at him to get him out of Detroit. And also, I think you've got to throw a little bit more to go to that hellish spot too.
Yeah, it's not like you're looking out at San Diego over the ocean and seeing your sunsets going back and forth. That'd be a great destination spot.
Yeah, and Carolina is also. I say Carolina also was trying to build a new headquarters last year, and we saw what happened there. That turned into a disaster. He filed bankruptcy. The billionaire files bankruptcy. And then that stadium is shit. Like, who wants to play in that? That's probably one of the worst stadiums in the NFL outside of Washington, but Washington at least has plans for a new one. Carolina doesn't. So, I mean, I don't know. That's not an attractive job to me at all, minus Bryce Young and if they can keep Brian Burns.
I've actually been to that stadium. The inside of the stadium is not bad. It's just everything around it. Parking, accessibility is terrible. It's right downtown Charlotte.
Yeah.
And it's a difficult place to get out of. Build your team. They were looking to go to South Carolina for their headquarters and practice facilities. There's just nowhere else to build and improve that area, but the actual stadium itself is actually pretty nice.
Texas, what's your thoughts on Dan Quinn? Because he's going to get targeted by a lot of guys, but he seems to have said over and over again that he wants to be in Dallas long term. Do you think he entertains a coaching job elsewhere, or do you think he sticks in Dallas?
So he has been requested to interview with the Panthers, the Commanders, the at least the Chargers as well. I think there was another team, but I can't remember. But I think that the Chargers might not be a bad idea for him. With Kellen Moore already out there as offensive coordinator, he's very familiar with him with the days with Dallas. There's talent out there. It just needs to be somebody, the right person to lead that talent. Honestly, the last 2 off seasons he's interviewed and he hasn't gone anywhere. But I do think, depending on how the rest of the season plays out, because one other person from the Cowboys staff that has been requested to get interviewed is Will McClay, and that is Jerry's right-hand man when it comes to player personnel. So there have been a couple organizations that have asked to interview him for their GM spots, including the Commanders as well. But that's why I say that about Dan Quinn, because the talk around the Cowboys is Will McClay, he's going to feel like it's one of those feelings like he wants to get a championship with the Cowboys with Jerry, and like say he goes off this year and goes to the Commanders for some reason, then the Cowboys win next year. It's one of those like, if I could have just waited one more year type things. And I don't know if Dan's feeling that way too. I know he loves Dallas. I know he's built that defense for himself. Like that is his defense. His fingerprints are all on that. So I could see if we don't win the Super Bowl, there's a possibility he comes back saying we're that close for one more round, but it depends on how much money people want and if he's ready to take over the reins again. But I think the Chargers would be his spot, if any.
Yeah,
I have I was just saying I have a question I want to throw in with that too. So so we've got Josh McDaniels, Frank Reich, Brandon Staley, Artie Smith, Ron Rivera, Mike Vrabel. Those are the guys who are officially out right now. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6. Of those 6, how many of those guys do you think are head coaches next year?
Say the list one more time.
Josh McDaniels, Frank Reich, Brandon Staley, Artie Smith, Ron Rivera, Mike Vrabel.
I think Ron's going to retire. Vrabel's the only one out of that list.
Vrabel's the only one that sticks out to me as somebody that would have a head coaching job after next year.
I think Vrabel might go be a DC though.
There's a possibility he does the Dan Quinn route, goes and becomes a DC for a couple years, and then waits for that opportunity where he wants. But if the Patriots are open, which doesn't open all that often, that's his team. I mean, I could see him go there.
I know that that's the talk, but I really don't think that's going to happen. I know that that's the rumor and everything, but I think that they'll have a conversation and they'll figure out a way to change some things to where maybe Bill isn't completely in control all that much or some sort of change. But I don't think he's going to leave. He's 15 wins away from the record. And obviously the way New England was this year, that's like 3 years at this rate.
3 years, yeah.
And he could probably go to San Diego's probably the easiest to win quick. Maybe Atlanta. Yeah, those are the two. But I don't see Bill in Atlanta at all.
I think there was a push for him there. I think I read somewhere there was a push for him for Atlanta.
Yeah, I just don't think that fits. Like Bill Belichick on the Atlanta Falcons sideline is one of the craziest thoughts you could even imagine. Like I don't,
it's hard to
see it. And they don't have a quarterback either. Like why would he go to a exact same situation? Like I don't know.
I could see it come full circle, like maybe him take a year off and then Dable in New York gets fired next year and then he comes and coaches in New York. That's where I thought he'd end up. If he wasn't a Patriot coach, I really thought he'd end up with the Giants.
Well, and that DC spot just opened up too. So to your point, maybe that's the move where he goes and takes the Giants DC role with the expectation that Dable may be out.
That's not going to happen.
As a DC. He's going to be a head coach and nothing else.
Yeah, there's no way.
Oh, no. I'm sorry. For some reason, my brain went to Mike Vrabel and not Bill Belichick.
Okay.
Oh.
No, Belichick.
I was thinking Vrabel. Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I don't think Dable would hire him as his replacement. You know, why put that pressure on your own staff?
True.
Yeah.
All right. DraftKings has Belichick's favorite team to go to next year is the Chargers.
Yeah, I think the Chargers are New England. Yeah, that's what I think too.
One other thing I wanted to throw out there too. Do you think they're done firing coaches? I could see a world where one of these teams get bounced in the first week of the playoffs, and McCarthy could be on the hot seat. And Sirianni, I'm hearing there's a big mutiny in Florida right now.
So the Sirianni thing is surprising to me, but that was one of the points I was going to make with the Dan Quinn conversation was another reason for him to stick around is that he is playing for a team that's owned by Jerry Jones, and Jerry Jones will fly off the handle and decide that McCarthy's gone if we lose this division round game or the wild card game, or frankly, even if we lose in the division and don't make it to the NFC Championship, that could still be a reason for Jerry to say enough is enough because he doesn't want to lose Dan Quinn. So that's definitely a job that could open up. I definitely don't think we've seen the last coach getting fired this year.
I was just looking through the playoff teams just to see if I could get a quick, really, I think Tampa is the only one that we could potentially see. I don't really think any of these other teams are going to be firing any coaches. I know Sirianni you just mentioned, but they also lost both coordinators, and I think their downfall was Patricia. Why the hell? I don't know why they would have ever. That buffoon should never be allowed to be on a field. Like he should be never in the NFL. This should be whatever the hell they play. Well, they'll win this week, I think, but next week when they lose, I think that should be his last NFL appearance ever. Patricia is a disaster, and clearly he has ruined their defense.
Well, Matt LaFleur is another one. I mean, earlier in the year, he was listed as one of the guys that they had potential of letting go towards the end of, like, I think November, right around then. Now he turned it around, but
yeah, there's no way they'll give him at least one more year.
Jordan Love, his rise sort of has quieted all the talk in Green Bay.
They started hot too. They just had a middle slump.
Yeah.
So there was talk after last season about McVay taking a step back. You think that this little run he's been on ignites him again?
No, he already came out and
said back.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, he shut the rumors down early this year. Yeah, I really think Tampa's the only one that even has a potential of a firing for the playoff teams. I guess if you want to say it. Yeah, that division's just so bad though. But
it is very bad.
I do see the outside for McCarthy, but I highly doubt that would happen too. I think that would have to be something drastic. But
I highly doubt it too. But it's Jerry.
Yeah. Oh, I know.
So, all right. Well, let's move into some NFL draft conversation. So the first 18 picks are now set. We have Chicago at the number 1 position, Washington at 2, New England at 3, Arizona at 4, and the Chargers are rounding out the top 5. And then moving from 6 to 18, we have the Giants, the Titans, the Falcons, the Bears have another pick. So they have 2 picks in the top 10. The Jets, the Vikings, the Broncos, the Raiders, Saints, Colts is sitting at 15. And then rounding out the top 18, we have Seattle, Jacksonville, and Cincinnati. So assuming there are no trades in the top 3, so we've got Chicago, Washington, or New England, or let's even say you have the possibility for a trade. Who are you seeing as the first 3 players taken off the board? Let's start with Texas.
So I think that the Bears are going to try to trade out that first spot. I think that Fields is their quarterback for the future. So I see them trading down, possibly like if you got a new head coach in New England that wants their quarterback, they want, Caleb Williams, that they trade up. So it's just from 3 to 1. So I say Williams to the Pats, and then May to the Commanders, and then that gives the Bears another weapon for Justin Fields with Marvin Harrison Jr. That would be, and then they get another draft pick, say 3rd round or whatever it might be at that point for that jump from 3 to 1.
Scott, what are your thoughts? Who do you have going to top 3?
Well, I don't know who is a Bears fan, but they're living large right now. They traded out that last year and got a bunch of picks, and I don't think they'll be at number 1 again this year. They've got their quarterback of the future in Fields, but they need to get him upright and some weapons. And I think the first quarterback going to be off the board of 1, 2, and 3, probably 4 out of the first 5. I would say Caleb Williams, Drake May, and I think Michael Penix, if he didn't cost himself a couple of draft slots after last night's performance. I think 4 of the first 5 picks are going to be quarterbacks this year.
Carter, what about you?
Yeah, I'm pretty much in line with these guys. I do think the Bears are going to trade back. I'm not completely sold on Fields, but just with that haul, and if they could bring another weapon in like Marvin Harrison Jr., pair him up with DJ Moore. They got Cole Kmet, former Irishman, and then the offensive tackle spot is loaded in this draft, so they can get a tackle. The defense was pretty solid there. So, and then I got Williams May. I wouldn't be surprised if those got flip-flop either. I think it's so early on once we see the combine stuff. And then, yeah, that's my top 3.
Jake?
I'm going to go a little different here. I think the Bears take Caleb Williams. I think they can take Caleb Williams. They can trade Fields, get a decent amount of return for him. And with their second pick, they can take Rome Odunze and be just as good as what they would have been with a better quarterback in Caleb Williams. Plus, they're still going to get what they're going to get for Fields. So I actually like the Bears to trade Fields. I know that's going to be the topic of discussion for the next 3 months and all the NFL shows, but I think they've given him his chance. And I'm not a Fields hater. I mean, every time he plays the Lions, he rushes for 120 yards and plays very well against us. But I think the Bears need a reset. And for the reset, I think they bring in Caleb. I obviously there's a heavy receiver draft, and they've got another top pick. Adunze is who I would take. Pair Adunze with Moore, and I mean that's already ridiculous. But second, I actually went with Penix to the Commanders, but I could see it being Drake May also, or even Jaden Daniels. I think they're all going to be somewhere in that group. So Penix is who I put, but it could be Penix, it could be Daniels, it could be May, and then Patriots, again, whoever's left there, probably Jaden Daniels. I don't really think May would be the one to fall. That would be kind of surprising, but I mean, crazier things have happened. So, but those are what I would say. And I did look up for next year's draft. Right now, Caleb Williams is a -650 to be the first pick of the draft, and it's +470 for the field. So, Carter, you were talking about maybe a potential flip there. +470 there is pretty. Plus, this early on, I mean, that's decent profit.
Yeah, looking at this, I'm kind of with Taxis on the possibility of maybe the Patriots moving up, but I am a proponent of Chicago keeping Justin Fields. There's always risk drafting a quarterback, and you know what you get with Justin Fields. And I think that a lot of his shortcomings have been because of the talent that surrounds him and not so much him himself. So I've got Chicago taking Marvin Harrison Jr. with their first pick, whether that lands in pick 1 or 3. I have the Commanders taking Caleb Williams as the potential first quarterback off the draft if they don't swap with Patriots. And then I have the Patriots taking Jake May. So it sounds like we're all aligned pretty much in what's going on there. How many quarterbacks do we think are going in the top 10? Because you've got, I mean, there's a slew of quarterbacks coming out of this draft.
I have 4.
Same.
4?
Yeah, I'm at 4.
Yeah.
I started out at 4, but I think it's now going to be 5. Just the drive
Who's the
with
fifth?
quarterbacks. How many head coaches are no longer head coaches just because their quarterback hasn't produced?
Who's the 5th one?
And, Indianapolis took Anthony Richardson last year, and on the promise of 13 games was going to be the new Peyton Manning. So I think that the premium price for quarterback keeps going up.
So you've got Caleb Williams, Drake May, Michael Penix, Jaden Daniels. Who's your 5th quarterback off the board?
Whoever they fall in love with. Anthony Richardson, I don't think talent-wise last year should have been in that top group, but people fell in love with him. How many years, year after year in the draft, they fall in love with a quarterback, and then they'll move up. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But I think there'll be a 5th one in that top 10, which will leave the door open for a lot of other teams to jump in there and scoop up higher rated talent, but they're not in the right position.
I mean, just thinking in my head quickly, I mean, is that Bo Nix? Like
JJ or Bo Nix?
Bo Nix,
yeah.
How much will they pay for Bo Nix's leadership qualities, experience? All those things that Richardson didn't have last year. His accuracy. It was 75% completion percentage this year. Great team leader. You hear all those things about Bo Nix. So, he definitely could be. Who falls in love with quarterback out of FSU? Once he gets healed up, who falls in love with him?
Yeah, I don't think he'll go that early, but
you
I
would
see it.
so, but look at what happened last year.
Yeah.
Production. They're drafting potential and not production.
Yeah, and you've got. I just don't see. I don't see that 5th quarterback coming off the board. Bo Nix would be the one that I guess would be the 5th one there. I don't think Shedeur Sanders is going to go that high. JJ McCarthy, I know.
Shedor's not even in the draft.
Is he coming back?
No, he's going to be at Colorado.
Okay, I thought he declared for the draft. So that takes that off the board. I know Harbaugh called JJ McCarthy the best college football in history after throwing 10 passes last night, but
for 40 yards.
Yeah,
but Florida State can't get in. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, let's not get Workman going down that road.
Cam Ward threw his name in there. I don't think he's top 10.
Yeah, but I don't think Cam's top 10. But
no,
he's potential.
I don't think JJ is either. But.
No, I think honestly, I think Nix, Ward, and JJ. I think is even further, but I think Nix and I'd say Ward is potential 2nd round. JJ and I'd put them probably 3rd or 4th round to be honest. But Cam Ward, I could see potentially 2nd round. I don't even see him in the 1st round though.
And then Spencer Rattler, probably 2nd round or 3rd round.
I wouldn't draft him ever.
I wouldn't either.
Yeah.
Isn't he going back?
South Carolina wouldn't touch him either.
Isn't he going? He's going back for his 13th year at the University of South Carolina, isn't he?
He'll probably transfer again.
The quarterback from Maryland's trying to get a 7th year.
Yeah, to his brother.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's jump right into it here. Let's cover these games, guys. We are going to kick Wild Card Weekend off with an AFC matchup as the Cleveland Browns face off against the Houston Texans, 4:30 p.m. Saturday at NRG Stadium in Houston. This is the second matchup with these two teams in the past month as the Browns beat the Texans 36-22 in Week 16. The difference this time around is that rookie standout C.J. Stroud will be playing. It is worth noting that the Texans were all in last week against the Colts, whereas the Browns did rest some key starters in a meaningless game last week against the Bengals. So the Browns are coming into this game better rested. Cleveland is favored by 2.5. Taxus, we'll start with you. Who's your pick?
I'm going to go with Cleveland. I do like Houston. I do like Stroud, but I just think that defense with Schwartz and everything, I think that they're going to hold. I mean, first time playoff quarterbacks don't tend to do too well. And Flacco's been there before. He's won it all. I just think that experience at quarterback is going to play a huge difference in this game.
Scott?
I love me some CJ Stroud, but I think Cleveland's going to come out there with the win. I don't think it's going to be as close as 2.5. It's just a better team, hotter team, and the Flacco miracle just keeps on rolling this week.
Scott, I don't think Colts fans are supposed to love C.J. Stroud.
I said
he's going to be your nightmare for the next 15 years.
I said last year CJ was the number one quarterback. He was the only one I thought was going to be still in the league in 5 years. He looked good at least his rookie year.
Carter, who you got?
Yeah, that's 3 in a row. Cleveland's defense is going to be the difference here. Houston's going to have to have a different game plan offensively than they did against Indianapolis last week. I think they got really conservative after that first 75-yard pass, and then they just started handing it off. I think they're going to have to throw it more, and Stroud's definitely talented enough to do it, but they're a little limited with the injuries. If they had Tank Dell, maybe it'd be a little different, but I got to say it on this podcast one more time. I'm wacko for Flacco.
I'm glad we got that in.
Damn it. Jake, save us here.
Yeah, so I went back and forth with this because I went back to Stroud. I mean, he played Georgia in the playoffs in their toughest game ever. Like, what he did against Georgia last year in the college football playoffs was absolutely amazing, and that's pretty much what put him in the top of the draft. And I love them at home, too. I think it's going to be insane in that building. I'm struggling with this one. I think I'm going to take Cleveland. Yeah, I'll go Cleveland minus 2.5, but I think this is a great game.
Yeah, I'm with you guys. I'm taking Cleveland as well. Flacco's brought some new life to this offense. I do think that Stroud's going to make a difference in this game. It's not going to be 14 like it was in Week 16, but Cleveland's defense is just so tough. They're like I said, they're coming off some better rest, so I am going to go with Cleveland as well. So that is a clean sweep for the Browns.
Who would have thought that would have happened?
Yeah, right. First time anyone's ever said that.
Right.
The second and last of our Saturday games is another AFC matchup as the Miami Dolphins visit the Kansas City Chiefs, 8:15 p.m. at Arrowhead Stadium in Kansas City. This is the second matchup for these teams this year as well, as they played in Germany back in Week 9, and both teams struggled offensively, with the Chiefs coming out on top 21-14. Both of these teams have had up and down seasons, with Kansas City's offense struggling to get going and Miami dealing with a slew of injuries. This is also another situation where one team is coming off a self-imposed bye while the other was all in, as Miami had all starters in Buffalo, but KC rested their starters last week against LA. Miami specifically is dealing with quite a few injuries, as they've lost a number of starters on defense, including Bradley Chubb, while guys like Xavier Howard, Raheem Mostert, Tyreek Hill, and Jalen Waddle are also not 100% or guaranteed to be available. Despite all of that, the Chiefs come into this game favored by 4. Carter, we'll start with you.
Man, I can't believe how well you guys did picking all these games on Tuesday every week with the injury news out there we're kind of waiting around on. I think Kansas City in the playoffs at home is tough. The weather this weekend is going to be single digits, and there's just no way I'm going against Mahomes in the playoffs. I know the offense isn't what it has been, but maybe they'll get on track, and the defense will carry the day.
Texas?
Yeah, this one I've been back and forth on. Those injuries are tough for Miami. But Kansas City's offense just has not looked the same all season. I think going into the draft, they really have to get Mahomes some playmakers outside of Kelsey. I mean, Rashee Rice looks good, but they missed on Sky Moore last year. Valdez Scantling and Kadarius Toney are not to be there next year, in my opinion. But I'm going to go with Kansas City. I had Miami marked down, but I'm going to go with Kansas City.
Scott?
I do have been back and forth on this one, but I think Miami's going to pull it out. Just Kansas City receiving core has just they'd have to go up to be disappointing. How many drops in big times, big games drops have they had this year? I just think Miami, even though they're injury depleted, that they from a talent and explosive level they're still better. And I think this is going to be a kind of a dud of a game, back and forth. They're just going to be able to squeak one out. One big play will be the difference in this game.
Jake?
Yeah, one of my favorite things about this game on the college when we always joke about some of the networks, this is a Peacock exclusive, so get ready for your streaming on Peacock for this one.
So many people are pissed off about that.
Yeah, all the Swifties now have to subscribe to Peacock.
Right. So my thoughts on this are the Dolphins' injuries are just too much. Like I think that a healthy Dolphins team, they would win this game. I think they have way too many issues going into this game. They're signing guys off the waivers today just to help their defense. They actually signed Bruce Irvin, who we just cut because we brought up Aleem McNeil back. But I mean, when you're signing guys that are that old to try to just get anything on the field for this weekend against the Chiefs, which the weapons aren't there, but the scheme is still there. I think this is a huge Kelsey game. Kelsey dominates this game. Pacheco will do what he needs to do, but I think Kelsey has a huge game and the Chiefs will win and cover. But I don't know if the Chiefs are making it past this weekend.
Yeah, the line on this has moved a little bit. I went back and forth on this like all of you guys did. I'm going to take the Dolphins plus the 4 here, thinking that Kansas City is probably going to win this by 3. I think this is going to be a little closer than some people expected. The injuries definitely play a major factor into this, but I think McDaniel's going to have the team prepared enough to be able to make it at least somewhat competitive. So I do think Kansas City's going to win, but I'm going to take Miami plus the points here.
You have an over-under on the number of Taylor Swift sightings, mentions, video montage?
10.
The over-under is 10?
I want the over, and I hope it's the over.
Over.
I know the Golden Globes, they made a joke about it, and she wasn't real happy. Yeah. All right. Let's move on here. So our first Sunday game kicks off with the Pittsburgh Steelers against the Buffalo Bills, 1 p.m. at Highmark Stadium in Orchard Park. Buffalo comes into this game as quite a comeback story as they started the season 3-1 before going 3-5 with their next 8 games to land at 6-6 and what looked to be a long shot at making the playoffs. OC Ken Dorsey was fired midseason, and that appeared to unlock the cheat code as Buffalo went on a run and won 6 of their last 7 games, including a win over Miami in Week 18 that handed them their 4th straight AFC East Division title. Pittsburgh, meanwhile, has had their own up-and-down season and struggles with an offensive coordinator, as the most popular chant at Acrisure through November was Fire Canada, and that happened in late November, but didn't have an immediate impact they'd hoped for, as they went on to lose 3 straight and were on the outside looking in mid-December after a 13-30 loss to the Colts. That all changed, though, as Pittsburgh did go on to win the last 3 games of the season, finishing 10-7 and securing a wild-card spot in an uber-competitive AFC North division. This is going to be a tough game for Pittsburgh, who's up against a red-hot Buffalo team and will be starting backup Mason Rudolph again and will also be without their lead defender in TJ Watt, who suffered a grade 2 MCL sprain and has been officially ruled out of the game earlier today. Buffalo is dealing with some injuries as well, but not nearly as impactful as Pittsburgh. The Bills come into this game favored by 10. Scott, we'll start with you.
Actually, I went to high school with Pittsburgh's new offensive coordinator. He's a great guy, but that's not going to help them against Buffalo. Buffalo's gotten hot at the right time, and they're just going to roll. I don't think it's going to be close, but it's a Buffalo all the way.
Texas?
Yeah, I'm with Scott there. I mean, you could have a 14-point line. I'd still take Buffalo. Yeah, they're the hottest team going other than the Rams, but they're better than the Rams. So on the other side of the bracket.
Carter?
I wrote down no TJ Watt and no quarterback worth a damn. I don't see a path for Pittsburgh to win. But, man, the more I think about that, is a lot of points. 10 points in a playoff game. Tomlin's going to have this team ready to go. I don't know if I got the balls to pull it, though. I'm going to stick with Buffalo, but that's a lot of points.
Jake?
Yeah, I think TJ Watt being out's huge. Mason Rudolph sucks, too. And just to your point about Ken Dorsey, I've been saying since the year 2000 he sucks. So I'm glad that something finally happened now to him. I hate that guy more than most people on earth. So well deserved that he's gone. But for the game, I agree. I think it's Buffalo in a runaway. I hope it's a runaway. I'm going to be mentally preparing for a game later that night at that point. So I don't really care to watch this game, to be honest. But I think Buffalo does run away with this.
Yep, I'm with you guys. I am also taking Buffalo.
Before we move on to the next one, I got a question for you guys. A friend of mine's a Steeler fan, and he's calling for Tomlin to get fired, as we were talking about earlier with coaches, mainly because of the back-to-back losses to 2-win teams. But then I also reminded him that he made the playoffs and went 10-7 with Rudolph and that offense. So, how do you guys feel about that?
I don't think fire him. It's kind of like the Jeff Fisher theory. Like, all he does is win. He's over 500 every year. He makes the playoffs every year. I mean, Tomlin has at least won a Super Bowl, I guess, though. But I don't think you can fire him. But I could see, I mean, obviously there's going to be coordinator changes, I think. But I don't think you can fire Tomlin at this point.
I think his personnel department has let him down year after year after year. He's not a bad coach. Is he, an upper five in the NFL? I don't think so. But I think his personnel department has just repeatedly let him down. Look at his offensive difference makers, the decision at quarterback of the future. He's not the personnel guy. So who in that front office is letting him down year after year?
You in a spot for Russell Wilson next year. There you go.
It could be.
Yeah, I don't see any way.
Would you want Russell Wilson?
He's built up too much cred.
There is surprisingly a lot of talk of it, though. Like, there are a lot of people that have mentioned the Tomlin fired thing.
He's been there, 17 years? I just think that he's been there so long that it's an easy view to take. But he's had so much sustained success that who are you going to bring in that's going to give you what he's given you?
The only coach I could even think, just of the people that we've named, like, I'm thinking of coaches that fit Pittsburgh. Vrabel fits Pittsburgh, but I think Tomlin's a better coach than Vrabel. So I don't think I would even consider that.
Yeah, exactly my thoughts. The Vrabel popped in my head, but I'm like, between Vrabel and Mike Tomlin, I'd rather have Tomlin.
Yeah, it's up Tomlin.
All right. Next up, we have the Green Bay Packers against the Dallas Cowboys, 4:30 p.m. Sunday at AT&T Stadium in Arlington. The Cowboys come into the playoffs elated to be sitting in the 2 seed after winning their last two, while the Eagles continued sliding, earning Dallas not only the 2 seed in the NFC East crown, but also at least 2 home games where they are the only team that remain undefeated at home all year. The Packers, on the other side of the equation, played their way into the playoffs after winning 6 of their last 8 games after starting the season 2-5, including winning their last 3, securing a wild card spot after the Detroit Lions took control of the NFC North for the first time in 3 decades. There are plenty of storylines between these two franchises as Jordan Love looks to get his first career playoff win, and the Cowboys look to shake off 30 years of postseason struggles and make a deep playoff run. Dallas is favored by 7.5. Taxis, I'll throw it to you, man.
I got to go with the Cowboys. They're at home, 16 in a row, putting up 30-plus points a game. I don't see a reason why. The Green Bay defense struggling. They can put up some points. But like I said with C.J. Stroud, first-time quarterbacks in the playoff just don't have that much success. So I think Dallas, they got the running game back on track a little bit against Washington. Granted, it was against a lot of second-stringers, third-stringers, fourth-stringers. I don't know. They weren't playing a whole lot of people. But, no, I got the Cowboys.
Well, they traded all their first stringers away. That's why. But
yeah.
Scott, who do you have?
I think Dallas is going to win this by the fourth quarter. It's going to go from a 10-point lead to, add another touchdown on that. I think Green Bay can keep it close to begin with, but first-year quarterback in the playoffs, Dallas is going to be rocking. Dallas has been just smoking hot at home. I just think Dallas is going to pull away at the end.
I saw that reaction, Workman. Carter, what's your pick?
You know my thoughts on that bullshit.
Yeah.
I'm with you
Carter.
guys.
Yeah.
Dallas has got this. I think they'll win by pretty comfortably 2 scores. Undefeated at home this year. Green Bay's coming in with the youngest offense in the league. I think down the road they're going to be pretty good, but like Taxis said, first time playoff start. Parsons is going to be in his face all day long. I'd like to see Dallas get that running game going a little bit more though, because Green Bay does have a pretty decent pass defense. But yeah, give me Dallas.
Jake?
Yeah, I don't think I'm truly allowed to say who I'm rooting for in this game without the FBI coming after me. So I guess I'll say Dallas to cover. I think Green Bay's defense sucks. I've kind of said it for a lot of the year. It's been exposed a lot. I think Green Bay does at least have some weapons where they might score, but to me, this is like a 35-14 game. Like I think Dallas kills them.
Yeah, I'm with everybody going with the boys here. Packers pass defense should be pretty exploited by Dak and CD and those guys. Hopefully the defense can force Love to make some mistakes. So I will take Dallas minus the points.
It's going to be a
All
whiteout.
right. Yeah. Okay. So before we cover this game here, I want to play a little audio clip from earlier in the season.
I tell with this team, I think their schedule's just favorable enough that they can sneak in and get this 6th seed. And just to throw in a little note here with my rankings, that would put Matthew Stafford taking the Rams to Ford Field in the first round of the NFL playoffs. Could you imagine that situation? That would be insane.
Oh man. Yeah. So, Mr. Workman, applause to you for calling that to a T. I don't remember what episode that came off of, but it was earlier. I think it was a preseason, wasn't it? That was a preseason.
It was episode 3. It was our division winners, and it's in NFL awards or whatever we picked. Which
Gotcha.
Just to speak to that real quick, both of us did pick Lamar Jackson to be the offensive player of the year, also in that plus 2,200.
Oh, damn, I should have put some money down.
I was going to say, how much money did you not win on that?
Yeah, I don't want to talk about it. If I'd have been throwing money on all these locks we've been picking this year, left a lot of money on the table. All right. So as you guys know, our Sunday games conclude with a huge matchup as the Los Angeles Rams go up against the Detroit Lions, 8:15 p.m. at Ford Field in Detroit. What feels too good to not be scripted, Matthew Stafford returns to Detroit to face his former team in their first playoff game since 2016 after winning the NFC North for the first time in 30 years, while Jared Goff gets a chance to exact his own revenge against his former team that shipped him to Detroit in the Stafford trade. The Rams caught fire late in the season after getting over some injuries, winning 7 of their last 8 games, including their last 4, to secure a wild card spot. The Lions, meanwhile, have consistently been one of the NFL's best teams this year and won 12 games for the first time since 1991 when they were in the Central Division and advanced to the NFC Championship. This should be an interesting matchup as both teams excel at the run game on both sides of the ball, so this could end up being a shootout between Stafford and Goff. One big player to note that you may not see suited up is breakout rookie tight end Sam Laporta, who injured his knee in Week 18 and seems unlikely to play, although Coach Dan Campbell did say today there is an outside shot Laporta makes it back. Detroit is favored by 3. Scott, we'll go to you first.
I think it's going to be the high scoring, take the over, whatever the over is. I haven't looked, but I think it's going to be the over. The Rams gotten hot at the right time, but I think Detroit's going to win at the end. They've just, even without Laporta, they've gotten a wide range of offensive opportunities. And the Rams, even though they're led by that Notre Dame running back, which we all love to see, I think Detroit's going to hold out at the end.
I don't know if we all love to see it, but Carter.
Kyron the Siren. He's about to go off in Ford Field. No, this is definitely my favorite game of the week. It's been tough going back and forth. I love Dan Campbell after watching Hard Knocks last year. It's hard to say fell in love with that team, but of the NFC teams, that's the team I've been rooting for. But I think at the end of the day, if Laporta doesn't play, that's a major, major offensive weapon they're going to miss. And it's going to be over. And I'm going to go with Rams. Stafford's going to get a win in Ford Field, playoff win in Ford Field.
Texas?
So for our dream Cowboys playoff scenario, I say the Rams win here. Then they go to San Francisco, win there, and they come to Dallas, and Dallas wins to go to the Super Bowl. So I'm going to go with the Rams. That's what I want. I'm going to speak it into existence.
And the Rams winning in San Francisco in the playoffs would be huge. That's a place they've struggled. I know they won there last week, but it was kind of fugazi, but that was a
for sure. All right, Jake, I think I know the answer, but who you got?
So the over under is 51.5, just so you know, which seems like they will sail way over that because it seems like this is a 30-something to 30-something game. But I mean, this game's impossible. I think Stafford's going to throw for 400 yards. Like I think they're going to absolutely light up our defense. But I think we're also probably going to have a huge day on offense too. I think the crowd's going to be too much. I think this is one of those things that it's just been built up so much, and all season long, it's kind of been telling. It's been there about. I think I called it like week 6. I was like, it's over. Like the Lions are going to win the division. I think Texas was even on the episode with us when I said it. I was like, it's over. I don't know. I think it's going to be absolutely insane in that building, and I don't think Laporta is enough to change the outcome. I think the Lions will win and cover this one. But this is going to be one of the worst football games I've ever watched, just because my favorite player against my favorite team. It's going to be terrible.
Yeah. I feel for you there. Yeah, this is a tough one. Goff missing Laporta or having a hobbled Laporta is going to be an issue. I think it's just a matter of whether or not Detroit can get this offense going on the ground against this Rams defense. My gut's telling me this is going to be close. I can see it being like a 38-35 game. The spread on this was 3.5, which had me leaning more towards the Rams, but I'm going to take Detroit here in minus the points, thinking that it potentially could end up being a push, but I am going to take the Lions to take care of business at home and get their first playoff win in a while. All right, the last of our wild card weekend games features the Philadelphia Eagles against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, 8 p.m. Monday at Ray J Stadium in Tampa. Tampa Bay comes into this game with the NFC South crown, securing the division last week on the road against the Panthers and finishing the season winning 5 of their last 6 games. The storyline for the Bucs this year has been the play of Baker Mayfield, who's resurrected his career, finishing the season as only the second QB in franchise history to record a season with over 4,000 passing yards, 25 touchdown passes, and 10 or less interceptions. Philly, on the other hand, has been sliding in the wrong direction. After starting the season 10-1 and looking like the clear frontrunner in the NFC to head to the Super Bowl, they finished the season 1-5 and quickly slid from the clear number 1 to a wild card team that's reeling as it enters the playoffs. The Eagles enter the game with a banged up squad as Jalen Hurts, A.J. Brown, and the offensive line are all dealing with injuries. It's also worth noting that Philly's defense has struggled, and the changes they have made on the defensive side of the ball have not worked out, as their defense has been giving up an average of 31 points per game over the last 7 weeks. Despite all of that, Philly does come into this game as a 2.5 or a 3-point favorite. 3-point favorite. Scott, we'll go to you first.
I think Philly's slide at the end of the season is one of the great mysteries of the NFL. You know, what has changed at the end of their season for them just to go into the dumpster? And Tampa Bay, I can't believe that anybody picked them to be in the playoffs. And the reason this is on Monday is nobody wants to watch it. So I'm going to go Tampa Bay at home. I think Mike Evans, Godwin will be able to torch the Philadelphia secondary, which is falling apart. You talk about here and locker room issues, and the team hates each other and doesn't want to be there. I think they get their wish, and Tampa Bay punches their ticket on Monday night.
Texas?
Yeah, I'm with Scott. I think that those injuries to Philly, I mean, saw Jalen Hurts' finger and A.J. Brown's leg. I just don't think that they're going to have enough. Their defense has been susceptible this back half of the year. They got lucky to get to 10-1. They won a lot of close games, but that type of play has bit them in the ass this second half of the season. They can't win those close games, and now, I don't think they're going to win this one. This is the game I'm least, the one I'm not going to probably watch out of all of them. I don't care.
Carter?
Yeah, I'm with you guys. It's crazy. I think about a month and a half ago, we would have said Philly would have been favored 10, 14 points in this game. I don't know if they can just flip a switch all of a sudden in the playoffs on the road and figure out that defense. A.J. Brown injury is concerning. Jalen Hurts is banged up. I think Mike Evans is going to continue his career year, and I got Tampa Bay winning.
Jake?
Wow. I'm really surprised by all of this. I'm taking Philly to win and cover. I just still think Tampa's not good. Like, I just think they're a way better team than Tampa still, even with the injuries. I think the injuries are going to kill them next week, but I think they still have enough to get through this week. But with them winning, if it holds up that Dallas and the Lions win, Philly's going to play the Niners next week, and they have no chance in that one.
No. I am going to stick with the majority here and take the Bucks plus the points. I just think that these injuries are just going to be too much to overcome. I don't know how Hurts is going to throw the ball with the way his finger looks. AJ Brown's not looking good either. And take those two weapons away on offense. I don't know if they're going to be able to keep up with Tampa, because Tampa should be able to roast the secondary. The Eagles defense just has not been playing well at all.
Matt Patricia.
Yeah, Matt Patricia. Yeah.
That was before Matt Patricia.
Yeah. It's been worse since, though.
It's been slightly worse. I looked at the average points given up, and it went up like 2 points roughly once they swapped from Desai. I think it's his last name, right? The guy, the old DC, Desai to Patricia. So I'll be interested to see. I know it's kind of crazy to even think about the possibility of Sirianni being gone, but if they lose this game, I mean, does anybody see him being out?
I don't have a culture there. I mean, there's nothing to hang his hat on. What does he do? He doesn't call plays. I mean, does he call offensive plays?
I think
so anymore. Steichen did last year.
I think he does now, though. I think because of Steichen leaving.
Okay.
Yeah.
But, I mean, I don't know. I don't see any culture there.
Yeah, his coaching staff has been rated by everybody looking for their next head coach. He lost his offensive coordinator, defensive coordinator. They're both head coaches. That's hard to bounce back from, especially when you're playing in the Super Bowl. Your season extends. They've had some major injuries, and you keep hearing about the culture in their locker room is just garbage. I think their team's ready to check out, but I don't know that's all on Sirianni.
I think Big Dom is allowed back on the sidelines this weekend, though, so you got to watch out for him fighting people.
Yeah, that was something else I saw. They were 10-1 with Dom on the sidelines, and then they just went to shit. Yeah.
That's big news.
Yeah.
No.
You want to change your pick, Carter?
The Big Dom effect.
The Big Dom effect. Is that going to swing you back to Philly?
Maybe if he gets on the O-line, then I'll.
Yeah, he's big enough. Big enough. All right, guys, that is it for Wild Card Weekend. We are not going to do locks. We're going to keep that for the regular season here. So that wraps up our Wild Card Weekends. Taxis, Scott, Carter, thank you guys for joining as always. We are going to be recording our NCAA show. Is this going to be our last one for a while anyway? I think. Yeah, we've got where we're going to be covering the game that happened last night. We'll do one more random conference guessing game for Workman to get him sweating a little bit, and then that will be the last college show for a while. We'll continue covering the NFL all the way through the Super Bowl. We'll probably take a small break and then jump back in during the NFL draft, and then we'll update you guys from there on when the next shows are going to be. But last NCAA show will be coming out tonight along with this podcast. For Jacob Workman, I am Reese Downing. Thank you guys for listening. Tuesday Night Touchdown Podcast, NFL Edition Wildcard Weekend 2024. Thanks, guys.
See you, everyone.
See you.
Thanks.
Thanks.